Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today I'm going to show you a quick fix to paint shadows like an expert and give your paintings the magic of depth, contrast and light. If your paintings are ending up looking lifeless and flat, then it's almost certain that it's because your shadows need improvement. And what I'm going to do today is use this photo of a lemon as an example of how to paint shadows. First, let me show you how beginners or amateurs usually paint a thing like this. So I'm going to mix up some cadmium yellow. These are very strong. And I'm going to add a tiny, just a little, literally a touch of orange, literally that, just to I'm using pyrrole orange and it's a really strong colour, so I'll just add a little bit more yellow in there. Okay. So I've drawn the lemon out. I'm going to just paint it how an amateur would paint. What you do is you mix up a lemon colour, so sort of orangey yellow, and then just paint the lemon, fill it in, fill the shape in that you've sketched with the colour of the lemon. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's a good starting point. And what lots of beginners do, they do this, they paint the lemon. Got a stray hair there. Paint the lemon and let that dry. Just not gone over a little bit into the shadow area, and then let that dry, and then come back and paint the shadow. So I'll let this dry. I'll get the hairdryer on it in a second. Okay, that's now dry. As I say, what beginners do, they'll paint the lemon, then they'll mix up shadow colour. Let's use some sepia for this. And they paint where the shadow should be with the other colour. As I say, in this case, we'll use sepia. There's a little bit of shadow under that bit there. And they'll let that dry. Okay, the shadow on the lemon's now dry. And what beginners do, they then darken that shadow a little bit and paint the shadow under the lemon in. I have to mention this blue glove. I apologise for that. I've had an operation on my hand and I have to keep the bandages dry, so for regular subscribers they will have noticed the difference. Okay, so that's the lemon painted. I'll dry that as well, and then we can have a look at it fully dried. So what we now have is basically a lemon with a shadow and a shadow underneath it, and it's fine as for a beginner to paint like that, but what they're missing is the fact that shadows curve around an object. So let me talk a little bit about shadows. Basically, there are two types of shadow. There's form shadow, which is the shadow on the actual object, which is here, and cast shadow, which is here, cast by the object because it's blocking the light. So they're the two basic types of shadow. But what most amateurs forget is that there's not a hard line there, and when they paint they leave a hard line, and the trick is to blend so that you don't get that hard line, you get a transition from the shadow area to the light area. On any object there's the light side and the shadow side, and there's a line. Technically it's called the terminator line, but let's not go into that. But basically the shadow blends across the terminator line. So let me just show you how I go about painting shadows. And this is a trick that all amateurs should learn. And it's basically using complementary colours for your shadows. Shadows made with complementary colours are often the best shadows in a painting. You can mix up the colour as an individual colour, but it's always nice to blend colours together. And the complementary of yellow, if you look at the colour wheel, is a sort of a blue-violet. There's a red-violet and a blue-violet on this colour wheel. By the way, if you're interested in learning about colour theory, these pocket colour wheels are very inexpensive. This one cost me £3 something in English money, and they're available at most good art shops and online on Amazon and other online suppliers. But as I say, the complementary for yellow is this blue-violet. Blue-violet's basically purple, so I'm going to use Imperial Purple for this demonstration. And what I'm going to do is paint the shadow first. You can do this wet in wet and let it dry, but that takes a lot more practice and is a little bit more difficult for a beginner to learn. However, it's worth building up to that. So let's start with some Imperial Purple for the shadow area. What I'm going to do is start with the darkest part, which is around the underside of the lemon. Paint it into the cast shadow as well, so that it becomes one thing. What I'm going to do now is just add some water and start blending. And as the shadow comes up, it transitions into nothing. So that on the top of the lemon, you have no shadow. But it's a gradual thing. You have to do this transition. So just use a damp brush, some clean water, transition it up. Just tidy up that shadow there. Shake your hand. There we go. So I could mix the lemon colour up and blend it wet in wet, but that's a skill that takes a bit more practice. So I'm trying to give you an easy way to do this that you can do without too much practice. It doesn't take a lot of effort. So let's let that dry fully, and I'll come back to it. So I'm going to use the hairdryer again. Okay, the shadow's now dry on this lemon. What I'm now going to do is paint over it, and you'll see that the two complementary colours blend together to create a unified object. And because when things are on a white surface, they reflect their colour onto that surface, I'm going to paint the orange into the cast shadow as well, so that it looks a cohesive painting. And as I come up to the top where the light is shining on it, I'm going to add some clear water just with the damp brush and just blend the colour, leaving an area of highlight where the light is coming down and hitting the lemon. Add a little bit more pigment in there. while it's wet I can add some more pigment on this underside just to darken it slightly. And while that's still damp, I'm going to just feather the edge of that shadow a little bit. As I say, while it's still wet I can add a bit more pigment, as long as it's not too watery. Okay, I'm going to let that dry now. And already you can see the difference between the two lemons. This one has a feeling of three-dimension to it, whereas this one is very flat. Now that the second lemon is dry, you can see, as I said before, that three-dimensionality to it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to finish off by just putting a darker shadow at where it's just touching the surface, because that will help ground it. I'll just soften that into the surrounding area with some clear water. Just darkening that little bit anchors it to the surface that it's sitting on. I'll just add the little brown bit at the end of the lemon there. So that's my quick fix for painting shadows. Use complementary colours. Try it out. It's not a rule. Paint your way, but learn some tricks along the way and see if you can improve the way you paint and make things look a little bit more realistic. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video instructive. By no means a perfect painting of a lemon, but it's a quick demonstration just to show you the difference between painting flat images and painting a volume, i.e. the shape of the lemon. So the light's coming from here, it's got a highlight there, this area of the lemon is lighter and it gets darker as you go round, and the shadow is already there because you painted it before you painted the lemon colour. If you found this video useful, do give it a like, it always helps with YouTube, and do subscribe if you're not subscribed for future videos. And thanks again for watching.